Leaving. So I just want to let you know that. So I'm not being rude. So if you guys give me permission to open the meeting today, I'll try to keep us on task and on schedule. Does that work? Okay, great. So the first thing is we're going to call the meeting to order at 8:17. And there's the first thing we need to do is make sure there's no conflict of interest. So actually written out right here. So if anyone has a conflict of interest, this would be a good time to mention it. All right, we're moving on. I think it'd be nice because we have some new folks here today to do some quick introductions. So do you guys want to start and we'll just go around this way?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
I'm Ariel Dive. I'm the Farmland Preservation Manager for Buncombe County Ag and Land Resources. Martha and I are the staff point people from the county for the board, but we also run our own farmland preservation program for the county, where we also hold easements and operate other farmland preservation programs.
And I'm Martha Ross. I'm the Farmland Preservation Coordinator. Ariel gave a great introduction to what our program does. We'll repeat it.
I'm Jess Blaggis with Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, not a board member, but here representing public interests.
Bob Kale, no longer a board member since 2004.
Amazing.
So, retired Restore Flora is my side business. So helping people with their yards get wild plants put back in suburbia.
David Serapinta. I'm a new board member, and I work for the state Natural Heritage Program.
My name is Marika, and I'm the admin.
I'm the second board member. I live out in the southwest corner of the county, and my goal for our corner of the county, and it should be for two of the other four corners, is to conserve as much land as already has been done by Terry Wells and friends in the Sandy Bunch area.
I'm Pam Coates. I'm Riverlands Land Resources Manager, so also not board member, but representing.
I'm Lisa Erb, a new board member. I am chair of environmental studies at Warren Wilson College and I'm a professor of conservation biology.
And I'm Cameron Carlo. I'm the Executive Director with Organic Grower School, and I live out in Fairview.
Before I introduce myself, the folks that are on the call, do you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure. Hey, I'm Lang Hornthal. I'm the Executive Director of Eco Foresters and a board member.
And Nancy, if you're filling up to it.
I'll try it. This is Nancy. This is Nancy Niels Nelson, past chair. Anyway, no longer on the board in Weaverville.
All right. Do we have anyone else on the call?
I think that's all.
Okay. So I'm David Tuck. I've been in the area for 26 years, work at a company called Equinox, so we're environmental planning, design, and restoration type work. So it's nice to meet some new faces and see some little faces too. And good to see you.
You were not the old face.
Yeah.
Okay.
How old in terms of age, in terms of being on the board. All right, so the first thing is approval of today's agenda. So we actually have to vote on that. So if we could have a vote for approval on the agenda. So if you would like to vote to say,
let's do a motion. Somebody will make a motion.
Yeah. We'll have a second. So, okay.
You do the motion.
Motion first. All right. Can we have a second?
Perfect.
All in favor? Aye. Say aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Great.
Perfect.
So now we get to do the same thing for the meeting minutes from November 19th. So we're going to do the same thing. Do we have a motion to approve? All right. A second?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? Okay, great. We're just cruising right along. All right. Public comment. Do we have anyone from the public online? All right. So we did introductions. We moved that up because we wanted you to vote on the agenda and the minutes. We thought maybe you should introduce yourselves first. So
And let's introduce Bruce. He just popped in.
Oh yeah,
too.
Bruce. I didn't see you there.
Apologize for being late.
You're fine. It's been a relaxed morning. We've had a late start, so it's all good.
Cool.
Yeah. Will you introduce yourself to some of the new board members?
Hi, my name is Bruce Schlesinger. I live in the Fletcher Buncombe area, Cane Creek Valley. Met Ariel because we're in the process, hopefully, of conserving the common areas that relate to our homeowners association. And have enjoyed being a part of this board. I think I take away and learn more than I give. Over time, I suspect that'll change.
There you go. Thanks, Bruce. Thank you. Awesome. All right, so election of officers.
All right.
I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So our new 4 board members were appointed back in December. So technically they are already on the board and, voting today. So that's fantastic. But that means that Bob Gale, Bob Turner, Matt Fusco, and Nancy have all rolled off the board. And so because Nancy and Bob Turner were our chair and vice chair, we now have to elect a new chair and vice chair. So I know that I believe it was at we didn't meet in December, so November meeting, Nancy Edgerton mentioned that she would be happy and, happy and willing to serve as chair and has had experienced many years being the chair or president. I don't know, Jess, what was the title?
She was the
chair at Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy's Conservation Board. I don't know what the board was. Board of Trustees. Perfect. So she has experience with it, is no longer serving in that role, so there wouldn't be necessarily a conflict of interest there. So that's a potential. We can have discussion, and then you would vote, how you feel as your current board members. And then also Lang has also said he was willing to serve as vice chair in that role. And Lang has lots of experience running meetings with his organization and in his past too. So that's my spiel. Now it's up to the board to talk that through and then discuss how they want to vote.
And I'm not a member, but I will throw in that watching Nancy over the last year and knowing Lang for a number of years, that they'd be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 cents.
Yeah. Nancy has been to almost all the site visits that we've had for new projects and has been very, very active in that way.
She asks really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring the new folks wouldn't want to put their hat in for board chair, vice chair, so.
Yeah.
So that would leave it up to Stagger Bruce if you guys have any interest at all. If you don't, then I think we could probably move forward with a vote.
I endorse Nancy. I've worked closely with SAJC on some transactions over the past few years, and they were like quality organization, and she was chair of their board and wants to do the job. So unless somebody else raises their hand, I would nominate Nancy for chair.
Perfect. We also have a message from Nancy Nelson saying she endorses Nancy Edgerton, who is communing with the penguins right now. and also Lang.
Great. Do we need a second? Well, let's make a motion.
Let's make a motion, and you can do them both at the same time.
So the motion would be for Nancy to be the board chair and Lang to be the vice chair.
Do you feel like that was a motion that you made, or?
I can change it to that. I don't want to just back up and say I nominate Nancy for chair and Lang for vice chair.
I second that.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations, Nancy and Lang.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody.
Oh, good. Did someone say something? Oh, okay.
I think Lang said thank you.
Oh, you got it, Lang. Thank you.
That way David only has to do this for one day.
And you'll see why. All right, update from Land Conservation Agencies. So who wants to start? We've got Jess here and we've got Ruben here. So you guys.
Sure, I think so. Okay. Yeah, I just want to give give a little background, board members. So Riverlink, of course, we're a land trust, we're a little unique. We operate, we focus on kind of these smaller parcels of urban, semi-urban land, particularly along waterways. And being a land trust isn't the only thing we do. We have a really robust youth education program that reaches over 5,000 kiddos every year. And we also have a really strong water resources program that does a lot of particularly post-saline stream repair, restorations, stormwater management, things like that. Yeah, so I guess for updates, something else we do kind of unique is we operate public parks on properties that we own in the city of Asheville. We have two currently running. One is Karen Cardinal Park, one is a pocket park in West Asheville. And then we're in the process of finalizing the design for future Gateway Park, which is on Riverside Drive, which Economics is involved in, which is great. And we just hit a snag with DOT, trying to figure out some easements and right of ways there, but hoping to move that process forward soon. And then we also own another property in East Asheville on the Swananoa River, kind of near all the like soccer field complexes, dog park out there. That was significantly changed post-Helene. A lot of the mature trees were just washed away. But we were actually left with like a beach and access to the Swananoa River that's rather nice. So we're hoping, working, finding some grant opportunities to actually make a little passive pocket park and river access there. Kind of in the early phases of that. And then otherwise within our organization, we have a huge focus on the Swananoa in general right now. With Wildlands Engineering, we completed a really extensive assessment of 7 miles of what we're calling the Middle Swananoa. So that's about Warren Wilson College to like the Ingalls Warehouse, and identified projects for restoration there. So Renee, with our Water Resources Department, is working to identify homeowners, landowners that we can work with to do stream restoration projects there. And that would be a lot with the NC Land and Water Fund, which they require conservation easements for their stream restoration projects. So that's kind of where our focus is going to be a lot. So you probably won't hear any proposals from me because they actually cover transaction costs with that grant, which is great. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. A lot of stream restoration, a lot of park building, things like that. So yeah.
Exciting. Any questions for Hannah? All right. Jess, you're up.
All right. We haven't had any closings in Buncombe County since last September, but we did close 29 transactions last year in our service area, which was pretty busy. Yeah. We are working on the Warren Wilson Conservation easements, which is really exciting. The surveys are in progress and are due in April. So that's kind of our first leg of due diligence there. The deed review project, Michelle Pugliese is our lead on that, but they have a hard deadline to close that in March. SHC will hold a conservation easement on that, but the title will transfer directly to Buncombe County. But we're hoping that can happen a little bit sooner in March. It's kind of held up in LWCF review process right now. She also gave me some updates on her other active projects that this board has supported. North McDarris Ridge has a small title issue that she's working to cure. Camp Rockmont is also very close to closing, but moving through LWCF review processes. And then Hawk Creek Headwaters has a signed option agreement, and she's just cracking due diligence on that. So a lot happening in the county, a lot happening outside of the county too.
You missed one.
What's that?
You got a closing of 5 acres that should occur in the next 6 weeks. But
that's true. Connie was out yesterday.
One day.
Couldn't check in with her.
My wife and I are transferring 5 acres to SHAC, which they will put in one day to the state to be part of the park.
Nice.
2 housing sites on it ready to go. Now all the state has to do is find the money to put modular housing on. That'll probably be 10 years from now. But anyway, SHAC has been great to work with. Very easy for everybody.
Well done. Thanks. Good job, Zach. That's great. Awesome. All right. And Conserving Carolina is not here today, correct? That's correct. So the next thing we're all done with the land trust updates. So then we move to the Buncombe County Ag and Land Resource updates.
Yeah, I can give a few short updates. So we are still on, so I don't know if I mentioned this to the board. I know I talked to Tom with Conserving Caroline about this, but so LCAB approved the 3 projects that came from Tom this past fall, but the county budget and commissioners want to see the projects kind of, not consolidated, but like brought to them in batches. So we haven't gone to the commissioners yet for those 3 projects, but plan to do that early March. In addition to that, Martha and I have a couple donation easements that we're working through the project approval process with Ag Advisory Board, and we'll bring those to the commissioners at the same time. After all of those projects have been approved by commissioners, we'll have allocated the full 270 that we were given for conservation easements this year from the county budget. But of course, there's still funds in the bond should something come up. But that's a good thing because we're showing the need. And right now the county is in budget talks. The commissioners have a budget retreat this week, and all the different county departments are putting together their budget requests. So the hope is that our annual budget does increase back up, much closer to what it was, hopefully. And so we've been collecting estimates from our land trust partners to see what do we think what kind of projects are coming over this next fiscal year. And for new folks, that fiscal year is July 1 to the next June 30th. So right now we're in fiscal year 26, but we're budgeting for fiscal year 27 to start in July. So got a lot of those estimates. All of that is great. We're also collecting estimates. The county, I guess it was this fall, the commissioners adopted a new strategic plan for the next 5 years. So that's the 2030 strategic plan. And we got a very similar goal in this strategic plan as they had adopted for their conservation goal for the bond, which is to conserve 20% of Buncombe County by 2030, since that strategic plan ends in 2030. The other piece of that is, should we meet that goal before then, the goal every year is to initiate 700 acres of conservation. And that doesn't have to be just that's from Ag Advisory and LCAB, and it's also including fee simple properties that land trusts are working to acquire. But the reason I bring that up is because that's essentially the main goal that's driving this board and Ag Advisory Board, is to work to initiate quality conservation. And the hope is that it's about 700 acres a year. And so in preparation for that, we've also been asked, how much money would you need between the 2 boards to be able to protect 700 acres a year, or at least fund 700 acres a year, knowing it's hard to predict exactly when those will close. So we've been putting together, long and short, lots of budget estimates. Hopefully that will help us have a fully funded, both boards for the next at least 5, maybe 10 years. There's also some kind of whisperings about another bond, another open space bond coming potentially this fall. And so we're also trying to make estimates there. And so that would go past that 5 years of the strategic plan and be more like, well, typically we look at bonds as like a 7 to 10 year process. So yeah, that's that. Like Stack said, we had a very successful event out in Candler Hominy. I want to say like 70-ish people. Yeah. Yeah. So that was way bigger than we had thought, and it was very exciting. So we can chat more about how to make that happen in other parts of the county.
Yeah. To clarify that, because some new members may not know, but so the Land Conservation Advisory Board, this board always has gotten money from the county one way, but then this big bond issue was passed a couple of years ago for one of the things is for open space parks, no hardscape put in, but just taking advantage of open areas. And so this board made a subcommittee of 3 of us to review and approve those proposed projects over the last couple of years before Helene, and we approved 11 of 13 projects for full funding, that didn't end up going past the county, through the county as Elaine did. But the other two projects we actually supported, they just had some questions that needed to be engineering questions, finished answering, or survey or whatever. So anyway, that's the background of that board, that bond fund she's talking about. And then there was, we did hear little inklings that there could be another bond. So there could be yet more open space protection in the future possible. But first we got to get those ones nailed down.
Yes, exactly.
Or you all do.
Yeah.
I'm no longer on that subcommittee.
That's a very good point, Bob. So I reached out to, so that we call that the passive recreation subcommittee. And so when that subcommittee started, it started right after, it essentially was created right after the bond was adopted. And it was, I think, is it four members from the recreation board and 3 from LCAD?
Yeah, there's 3 from LCAD.
3, okay.
And I can't remember.
I'm guessing it had to be an odd number.
Kevin was the chair, and I'm sure her name just escaped me. There were 2 people I know that were on the ag board.
Okay.
And maybe there was a 3rd one.
Okay.
It's faded.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, but the reason I bring it up is because those representatives that were on the passive rec board were Bob, and then Bob Turner and Matt Fusco, and those are 3 of the 3 of the 4 members that are rolling off. So that is something LCAB, we don't have to make any decisions today, but that's something that we need to think through. Are you willing to serve in that capacity? And we would then need to nominate 3 of our board members to serve in that subcommittee. My understanding right now is that the subcommittee isn't actively meeting until the next window of open application for passive recreation projects would be posted, and then the board would get back to meeting to review those projects. Is that kind of where they left?
Yeah. We're without a job once we did our final approval of everything, and then Elaine did. But anyway, I was gonna say something, I forgot it. But anyway, so there's a positive thing in the future if it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it will for you all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what see. So this board approved our subcommittee recommendations, and then it went on to the county.
Yes, exactly.
Aaron, a question. So we're sitting here as a county organization.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Asheville clearly has budgetary issues that are well advertised and well known. Does that have any impact on you in your work?
No, luckily. Yeah, all of so we're county staff, so our department budget, as well as any of the conservation easement funding for either board, is coming straight from county taxpayers. Yeah.
As there is talk about a second bond, is there talk about the bond administrator?
No clue. Not at this stage. I haven't been deep in those conversations. My understanding is the first real conversation the commissioners are having about that will be maybe today. I think it's the 21st, 22nd. They have a budget retreat this week. And so hopefully, I know that staff will be bringing, nobody needs more on their plate at this stage. And I know the person that has been kind of over the passive rec kind of just inherited it. So I know that there's not a ton of capacity there. So that's a good question. Don't really know yet. Yeah, but we know that there's a need. Where the funding comes from is really the question. We know it can't come from the bond.
So I'm assuming the county, if they're going to pursue another bond, would put it up to the public for a vote?
Absolutely, yeah. If it was coming up this year, it would be this. Yeah, you would hear a whole campaign about it, I'm sure. Yeah. And then it would be on if it comes to pass this year, it would be on the ballot this fall.
Great.
Are there plans to try to get it on the ballot this fall, you think?
Hopefully we'll know more soon. Maybe by the next meeting or two, we'll get more direction.
Great. So one thing for the new members is what happens with our group. The land trust will come and they'll have certain needs for projects projects, financial needs, and so they'll present their projects to us, and then they'll ask us to vote on them. So usually it's around this time of the meeting where that happens. So I'm assuming there's no new projects because you would have mentioned it already. But just so you know, and that's usually where more time in our meetings, that takes a good bit of time because there's a lot of explanation. We go into a lot of detail, which is wonderful, so we can understand the projects. And then we have time afterwards to go out to the sites. So you can go visit the sites, and then we come back and we vote on the projects, just so you guys know. So that usually happens right around now. All right, any other questions at this point?
I got a question.
Yeah.
It's about conflict of interest in
Yes.
those sites. So I surveyed the last ones that got approved. I actually surveyed, but I have to be like, I have a conflict of interest with my job.
Right.
Like, did the survey for the land and water fund portion of it.
Yeah.
So if you did you already do it?
Yeah.
You already did the work.
Yeah.
So here's an example. There was a Conserving Carolina project. They presented. We had to vote on it, and one of my staff members did an ecological assessment on it. And in that case,
Owen Carson.
right. So in that case, it was like, okay, I'm voting on a project we did work on, but you've already done the work.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not an attorney, but just from my.
I think it's fine since you weren't here for the vote to approve that project. So moving forward, we'll double check with the county attorney to ask what they recommend. But like, say there was a project that either one of you had, some kind of experience with, it would just be a recusing yourself of voting on it. And so it's not a big deal. It's not like you don't get to participate in discussion or the site visit or whatever. But if there was any concern, we just always err on the side of caution. But yes, good question. I mean, and yeah, I don't know.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, having worked for the Pregnant Confusion Commission in the federal government, also known as the FTC. Generally, you can be part of any discussion, and then in terms of voting, Eric said that that's the county attorney.
So in the beginning of every meeting, it's like always up here. So if you're like, if you're not sure, or if you know it's coming, you can just message Ariel and she'll help if I do.
I don't think I'm going to be doing much of that stuff anymore. But I know there's a delay in some of the animal questions.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. All right. So report on the January 13th meeting in Hominy Valley. So I know we started just talking about that just a little bit while we're waiting for the meeting to start, but Stan, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. Yeah, we had a meeting and would encourage each of you to think about it in the area you live or other areas of the county. What was the meeting to inform the Upper Hominy Valley community about the whole conservation process? And I sent out the presentations to all of you, so if you didn't get that, let me know and we'll get it to you. Basically, the goals were to plant the seeds in the land, in the minds of the landowners, that, other than selling out to developers, there are ways to preserve their land. And one is, outright sale to SHAC or some conservancy, and then they will either keep the land or transfer it to a state or federal government or city government. Put it in a conservancy or include it in their estate planning. And particularly planting the seeds in some of the landowners who've been there many generations and are suspicious of anything that has to do with the government, but don't want to sell. A lot of them do not want to sell to developers either. So this is really just getting the word out. Also, gentle help with fundraising so that people will join SHAC or RiverLink or whatever, and become supporters. And then just gaining support for the conservation effort, because there's still a lot of people who are suspicious of conservation in the government. The who, and that's sort of the key, is getting the word out. So we basically try to get the word out in the people who live in Upper Hominy Valley and other people who may be interested, like Biltmore Lakes, which is we're like the closest non-developed area of Biltmore Lake. I did that through, local flyers, using we don't have a community center unlike, say, Sandymount area. But Budgie's Bakery is becoming our local community center. So every time you went in Budgie's Bakery, you saw information about the meeting and they had flyers. But that will have to be shaped by knowing your local area. We use the volunteer fire department because they are also well respected out there. Terry Wells, who is our county commissioner for our area, and Lonnie Israel, who's running for county commissioner, and is very well respected locally. That's the Israel's nursery. He's also the treasurer of the volunteer fire department. So basically, local community. Friends of Piscataway Park State Park, which is, we're centered, that's now become our anchor out there. It's a not yet open state park, but they have a mailing list and they send it out to their entire mailing list, my personal mailing list, and then just a lot of word of mouth. But that was the biggest sort of unknown to me. I didn't know whether we had 3 people. I'm sure it was going to be more than 3. My wife and I are 2. But I wasn't sure whether, I didn't think it was going to be anywhere close to 300. It's real with 75. But you need to think through that carefully because we ended up literally with SRO because we were doing it in the church, the Budgie Bakery Home, which is our new age community center. And we filled up all the chairs and people were standing. And we ran out of parking room. So think through the logistics carefully because that was a surprise we got that many. And then the how, you all have the conversations, but Terry, I asked Terry to be the moderator. She does a terrific job and is extremely well respected out there. And then the plan was to have Nancy Niels-Nelson to do the LCAD overview presentation. Nancy, unfortunately, came up sick, but she has put together a great presentation. And Ariel stepped in and did a super job for Nancy there. And then SHAC presented how conservancy works and the opportunities for funding and all of that. And it'd be up to either Jessica or Michelle or Connie. I think right now, Connie is the lead in our area. I think Michelle and most of the rest of the county, but whatever. SHAC will furnish a very good speaker. Carl had actually planned to come, but he also got the freaking credit that's going around. And then Ariel did a great job in the county presentation. And then very important is to have plenty of time for Q&A. To compliment the speakers, they all stayed exactly on time. We had half an hour for Q&A, and that really got the community engaged. And the one suggestion I had, other than solving the parking problem, was a little bit more on the financial benefit. That came up in Q&A, but understandably, people are reluctant to say the word tax benefit if you're not a tax attorney. So that was a little bit understated, but it came out better in the Q&A. But Ted Getz, who's a board member of SHAC, is a lawyer with expertise in this area, said he could help with that and volunteered to do that. He was there and was very enthusiastic.
Who was that?
Yeah.
Ted Ghiz, I think. Is that right? I think his last, Ghiz.
Just joined our board.
New board member, and has a legal background. It's very important. Okay, I always said the where is key.
Nancy sent it.
We also did the obvious thing. We had some food and drink, but that always attracts people.
That's true.
That's pretty much it.
Nancy sent a couple messages in the chat saying that LCAP has hosted similar meetings in all corners of the county since 2006. They did one in Sandy Mush, Fairview, Barnardsville, Weaverville. it's great, she says, and that so much has changed with LCAB since 2004. She said that we've also given LCAB education talks to small groups, including Asheville Garden Club, Asheville Small Business Owners, community groups, HOAs, etc.
Great. Jess, who do you think, for Jupiter area, who do you think I should talk to about that? Would that be Michelle?
That'd be Michelle.
Okay.
Unless it's agricultural.
Okay, well, it could be both out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of farmland, so. And then Stag, did you coordinate it all through Ariel and her team, or was Stag kind of working this up on his own and then came to you, and how did you guys all make it work, come together?
He was the point person, and he kept looping us in.
Okay.
Ariel and Nancy circulated the presentations around. But I think you raised a good question. I think the most important to the content, I think, is nailed, the percentage are great, is how you get the word out and picking the right meeting and all that. Yeah.
I also think meeting time is very important. I mean, not necessarily time of day, but like I think that because we waited till after the holidays and it was in January, that's like, especially for farmers, that's a quiet time. It's good planning time. They got time to go out. So what we see, because we do, well, before Helene, we were doing quarterly Friends of Ag breakfasts around the county, and so in the summer, not as well attended as in, like November, February, because people just have more time. So I think it could be something we try to plan, just be aware of the time. I don't know if other folks have ideas about that. The other thing we found out, like last week or so, was that the Foundation of Soil and Water has some funding for hosting community events. So that could be like if we had to have an event rental, fee or some food and drink. They have, as long as we are talking about farmland preservation at that meeting, which if I'm there, we will be, then we could potentially have some funding for that. So I'm happy to and I don't know if it's one lump sum and we could divide it amongst like a few different events, but I can figure that out.
And what group was that again?
It's the North Carolina Foundation of Soil and Water Conservation.
One other idea on the presentation to add to it, or maybe in the follow-up, I did have everybody sign up and give me an email. I wanted to follow up email in a week or so. Is some examples of what's specifically done, because like one of the landowners did this, that owns 200 critical acres. He put it in conservation, but he retained 2 5-acre plots for homes. And so importantly, the speakers were great at saying, if you put it in conservancy, you still own it. Okay, that's very important to get across. But I think a couple of examples of saying, you can retain 2 home sites, and then you retain the right to put 5 yurts on the other 200 acres. So but the speaker did a good job of theoretically saying you can do anything you want. But I think I would add to the presentation, here is something that really happened without mentioning the person's name unless they want to. If this person wants to say, look, we load the radar, but some very specific examples I think would help.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, and Jess, this is kind of a question for you, is obviously Wilson wants to do plenty of publicity when things close, but that'll be Wilson and SAFC focused publicity probably, right? So, but it seems like a good opportunity to say, why did we do this and what, like an opportunity for the county to celebrate their part in it and stuff. So I don't know when in that arc of the closing, do we wait till after and talk about it? Probably, I assume, but anyway, we can certainly, we're a good place to host stuff and things, and I know we just haven't wanted to disturb the, make sure everything closes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's typically, we wouldn't, there's a lot of confidentiality with our letters, and we wouldn't publicize anything until it was closed, and then it's on public record. Warren Wilson's a little bit of a different story because they, Damien wanted to leverage the conservation for further fundraising.
Yeah.
So there was a story, and most people think that this project is done, right? Like, just because there was a story that went out that talking about the board approval and what it meant and how exciting it was. But usually for our processes, what happens is after we close, our communications director will do an email blast write-up about it, and then a kind of a more in-depth discussion of it in our newsletter. Our newsletter comes out not quite quarterly, so there can be a long lag there. And then also in that, she'll do interviews with landowners. And I think with Warren Wilson in particular, because you all have a communications department too, there'll be a lot of close contact between them. But I do think that there's, it's not every landowner who's willing to give testimonials. Like some landowners are very cagey about what they were paid. They don't want, they don't want their finances all over the community. So it can be hard to find the charismatic landowner who wants to put up exactly what happened as an example for people. But I do think that's extremely compelling. And I think Warren Wilson is a great spokesperson for that, because you're not an individual landowner who would have those same qualms.
But the principles are still there, so it seems like we could have an opportunity. So I know we don't quite know, but aiming sometime 2027.
I know we've also had experience with some of our landowners that are more of the ones, they want to talk about their experience, they want to share. And so maybe in some of these community meetings, that could be helpful to have a handful of those there, not like a landowner panel or anything, but like,
Plant.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Plant in the audience. Oh, you there. How was that experience? Yeah. But to be able to talk landowner to landowner, I think that really helps people kind of settle fears.
Absolutely.
And the other thing to go along with that is actually having an on-site, hikes and visits, like Physical State Park. As soon as we can, I want to see to host a hike out there, because it was instrumental for the $1 million into that. We still haven't gotten permission. And I did a hike with the professor of my college. Just retired. Okay, yeah, anyway, and that, I hadn't really, Warren Wilson hadn't hit my radar screen to that. It's like, wow, what a great place to do conservation with. That on-site's very effective to plant ideas in people's minds.
Great. Any other questions on the presentation? That was good. All right. Well, that was, Stag, thanks for doing that. And sounds like it was extremely successful. Ariel, thank you for being there, and Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy folks too. I'm very interested in doing this one. I live up in Jupiter, so people don't know usually where that is. So instead of going right to Barnesville, everyone knows that way. Go left, Jupiter. And I've been involved in a lot of county projects, and Jupiter is hardly ever mentioned. So I feel like, so I feel like I'll do my best to see if we can set something up. And Terry Wells, I'll be following up with her, and then we'll be following up with the county. I'll keep you all posted. Because Stag did a great job. He also invited everyone to attend, so for folks that could. So, well, great. All right. So we're going to turn it back over to you, Ariel, because we are at the point of honoring our board members leaving.
Yay! Let's honor them. So, Nancy, are you still there? All right. Awesome. Well, we're sorry you're not able to be here with us. We have fresh bagels and coffee and fun slideshows, but hopefully you'll be able to see some of the pictures I'm trying to present. But yeah, we just wanted to take a little time to kind of go back down memory lane with some of our pictures from past events of some of the board members. I know it's just Bob Turner and Matt Fusco could not be here today either. Oh no. All right, let's give it a go. All right, 1 minute.
Scrolling through so beautifully.
I know, look at that.
Ariel has a very nice PowerPoint that she wants to present, and she's just making sure she can get it going.
Yeah, sorry about that. We were looking at a lot of young Bob Gale photos earlier as people were entering. But yeah, so found out this morning that Bob was on the original LCAB and has been serving ever since. So over 21 years, which is amazing. And Nancy, I think you mentioned that you were appointed in 2008. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So right here we have a young Matt Fusco here, just a wee one, and then also a young Bob Gale. These for new folks, these are pictures from the Land Conservation Advisory Board annual conservation donor dinner that LCAB used to do for many, many years, and then took a little bit of a break based on the ability to coordinate and for it. But the year before Helene hit, or no, I guess it was 2024, we've hosted 2 in the last few years. Didn't do it last year, but we've done a few recently. And the idea is to acknowledge the landowners that have done conservation easements. And so we have a nice dinner, and all the board members from all the conservation boards, as well as commissioners, and particular county departments and other conservation partners join the event, and we honor the landowners at the event. So this is, Nancy was our MC at the last one. Yeah.
Great former commissioner.
Yeah.
David Grant. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm heading out, Diana Staines in progress. I'm
going
out to the survey site.
Good. So on behalf of Buncombe County, we want to express our deepest gratitude for your incredible services, board members. Your dedication over the past decade has been invaluable. Classic. I didn't think it was happening. It wasn't happening. But it's been. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know, right? But it has absolutely left a lasting legacy on our landscape, and we will remember you for many, many years to come. Please do not be a stranger. Continue to attend and provide us with all of your wisdom and experience. We have Nancy. I know you're not here, but I want to show you. We have you a special certificate of appreciation.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bob. There's Nancy. Congratulations.
All right. Yes, thank you all so much. We really appreciate all of your support.
I'd like to just mention that, it's hard to believe it's been that long serving on this board, but the two things in my life that I feel like I've felt like I was doing good and helping something good happen. The first one, I was lucky enough to be with a group of people in South Carolina in the 1970s that got Congaree National Park through Congress and signed by the president. The Redwoods of the East, they call them. So a big part of my heart is in that. I feel like it was something I actually contributed really. It was so positive in my life. The lands we protected under this board since 2004 is equal to that. So I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to work with this board through the years.
Thank you so much.
You've had a very illustrative career, and you've done so much good in our community. We go way back. I've known you for a long time, and it's just impressive everything that you've done personally. And so keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Nancy, I don't know if you have anything you want to share. I know your voice is going, but just know that we're here for you.
The only thing I want to say, first of all, these are great pictures. But the thing that I look at is how much stronger the board is in terms of the depth of experience and community involvement over the last 18 years. It's become very strong, and it certainly helps when you have community and government working in your favor. I almost put in the chat page, but I didn't. It's been a long time since I've seen one of the big no zoning signs, which were so prevalent in 2004. Yeah. So thank you all for serving, and I will still be around as soon as I can talk again. So thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. That was awesome. And thank you for all your work on the board and being the chair. All right. Shall we move on to our last item, which is announcements?
Yeah. Does anybody have any announcements? I don't think I do. The only thing is February meeting, yes. We will be virtual again, so back on Zoom. So glad to see everybody's faces, and then we'll be back on Zoom. So it'll just be, there should be the Zoom meeting link in the calendar invite, as well as when Marika sends out the agenda and minutes, it'll be at the top of the agenda too. So if you're ever trying to find it.
And the next meeting, do we have the date? I know we meet every...
It's the 18th.
Thank you.
February
18th.
And newbie question.
Yeah.
So if we have homework, and maybe that's just my line of work. But when do we know if we need to be, or it sounds like usually we're introduced to something 1 week, 1 month, and then we would
exactly
vote on it the next. So
yeah.
It's not like
so you have no homework. We'll let you know when you do. We will let you know when you do. But yeah, so as of right now, we don't have a new project kind of on the pipeline. Which is good because it'll get us a chance to get some of the new folks up to speed. So typically, yeah, you'll get introduced to a project that first meeting, then we'll do a site visit in between, and then that in between those two meetings, there'll be homework. And then another thing to think about is, what does the board want to discuss or do in the months when we don't have presentations? So in the past, there's been, a guest speaker doing a presentation on something, or like maybe Riverlink wants to come talk about what you're doing in Swannanoa, or we can think through some kind of short guest speakers or presentations or something along those lines. So
about easement processes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. So and I didn't mention this, but last week we met with all the new board members and did an onboarding. So we went through the process, we went through some of the history and all of that. So hopefully, there's a lot of info, but yeah, that was a good start. But then I like the idea of some of that. We can chat about it. Yeah.
Also, when are you had mentioned in that email proposing moving all of our submittals to once a year.
Mm-hmm.
When is that going to start?
So, also very good question. We haven't officially decided yet, but I think, and so that might be maybe one of the first presentations that we bring is that idea. And so for other folks, Martha and I are trying to figure out how can we streamline the application process for LCAB for a variety of reasons. One, our staff capacity, but then other, just to keep it more organized. So as of right now, it's just been whenever you need to present, you come. And so this past year, we had a few of that meetings where we had a bunch of projects all at once. And so we were trying to see if we restructure it a bit more like a grant cycle where we have a month or two where applications are open. The land trusts are submitting that for the year, and then we organize the presentations and the site visits. So not sure exactly. Last we talked, maybe it would open in June, so that we could have everything approved by the time of a fall grant application, where Land Trust would maybe need to have that secured match before submitting for another grant. But that's still something we're just we haven't really made that solid decision, but really open to feedback. So we want to make sure it works for everybody.
I could support having a process that focuses on, annual, particularly ones that are complex and need a lot of funding, but I don't want to lose the option of a process of a new project getting introduced when it just happens to pop up, because they're so different. Like the Warren Wilson one has been very complex over many years. The Light Center one, fairly complex. But the other extreme is the landowner who says, hey, I just want to give you the land.
Right.
But we got to work through the phase one analysis, blah, blah, blah. But we can move very quickly. I'd hate to see something like that. In fact, you get people like my wife that say, once they want to do it, I want to get it done quickly.
Right.
Don't make me wait a year.
Well, and that's a good point. That's something we've also kind of talked through over the years. Is right now LCAB only funds conservation easements, but we have discussed the potential, and I'd have to go county legal, county management, to a variety of different folks to see what the potential was. But there's been request and interest in funding fee simple acquisitions in addition to easement purchase, and so exactly, yeah.
This project.
Well, and the other, we also were like, could it be a 2-cycle thing, or is it a standard 1-cycle thing, and then there is an exception? Like, should there be a particular exception? The board would vote to make an exception or whatever. So, yes.
If it were fee simple, got there.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure. We'll have to reach out a bit more on the fee simple question, but that is something. That we'd have to get approval from much higher.
And then you would want our opinion as a board on that?
I think so, yeah.
So if that's the case, maybe when you're further along, we can put it on a future agenda, and that could be one of our topics.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, we'll bring a proposal to you, and then we can discuss.
So having it being ad hoc could be a little distracting.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to do something quarterly, it would be my opinion that having some specific dates would create an element of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did something quarterly where you had to submit by a certain date, and then it would be considered in the next cycle, is probably stronger than just having it be willy-nilly, where there's no element of urgency from the donor side.
Yeah, that's true.
Good point, Bruce.
Yeah.
The other thing, perhaps for one of the meetings to talk about, is identifying key parcels around the county and how we reach out. We need to do this very carefully because we don't want to announce to developers these are the areas that we're on, because then they may get there first. But like in our area, I have my own thoughts on what are the critical pieces, given we've got the state park as an anchor, etc. That may be something we as a group want to talk through, is how do we find critical landowners and pieces of land and develop the conversations and all that.
I would say that this is a funding voting board, and so I do think there's onus on the land trusts who already do that type of prioritization.
Okay, good point.
To bring the projects that have already been vetted by our boards,
which have a complex process in themselves.
So that point, so really what the thinking I'm doing is maybe as individuals we should be reaching out to the land.
I think that's I think that's a great role.
It's not the role of this board to do the identification.
But relating to that, and I brought this up in our newbies meeting last week, 2 weeks ago. I think it's such a different landscape. It came up when Ariel showed the prioritization map, And it's such a different landscape post Helene, and there's so much going on. And of course, I live in Black Mountain, work in Swannanoa, but there wasn't much there. And I know there are lots of corners of the county that need a lot, but it's a different landscape than when some of those prioritization maps were made. And I'm just wondering where that is, because there are great, prioritizations for parcels that y'all are doing, but then we have to make decisions on it. And particularly, I think we talked about in our meeting that it may be that if there's more deadlines, right, and limited times, we're going to end up feeling a little bit more as a board that we might be comparing properties more than the current procedure is. And so it would be helpful. I just think it would be nice for us to raise up again. What are even just y'all presenting what your priorities are as land trust? What are you seeing as, but just what your criteria are?
I think that's a really good one.
No, I don't want you to pull back the curtain too much.
In a public meeting.
Reminding people connectivity, like you do in my class, Jess. What are, connectivity to something else, just those basics. That might be a nice,
I think that would
for
be,
our
like
board.
you're saying, a great presentation for the board on what those project selection criteria are, how we come up with those prioritization layers. Because we do have, so I want to remind the board too, these meetings are all public. And again, we wouldn't want, there have been issues with individuals feeling targeted for conservation, and I think we want to be careful of not having anyone feeling I'm coming for you.
Because even having conservation focus areas, people think that, even though we're trying to be very clear that that's not what it is, but your parcel's in that big blob, then you're a little bit there.
And we do utilize our prioritization for outreach to people, but I think into the larger community areas, but I think that's a great idea to just talk about what make those up.
And does each of the three organizations have different priorities given your missions? And so I think that's helpful.
Yeah,
just for context.
And your regional representation, where you're serving. So I like it.
No, I've always, whenever somebody's expressed an interest or asked questions, I'll tell them, what a conservation easement is, basically, and I'll say, if you're interested in this, and I would tell them to go to talk to this land trust or that land trust, because they have got it down on being discreet and talking to people without scaring them off, building a relationship over years and making it happen. Rather than me trying to say, well, now, you could get this money from here or this money from there or whatever. I just sort of say, keep it real broad and just get their attention and then give them the person to go to or the county. And that, I don't know who might have gone anywhere after I've told them things like that, but hopefully, I think that's a pretty good approach.
I think so too.
People that are not in the weeds like the land trusts and the county staff.
Ariel and Tommy did a very good job of saying the word voluntary.
Right.
I think that was important in a meeting that, not something to enforce on people, it's truly voluntary. It's a good point, you need to be careful.
Yeah. Ariel, does soil water hold scenic easements, or are they all agricultural? Or does there have to be an agricultural component for it?
We consider, the working farm and the working forest kind of as one. So we do have conservation easements that are just forested, that have scenic components. But it kind of just depends.
They have a commercial forestry plan.
Yes, they have the ability to do that.
And if it were too small to qualify for a commercial forestry plan, and it was forested, that probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't meet our requirements. Awesome. Well, we have some good ideas. We'll send a proposed, next 6 months of or maybe less than that presentations. And
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
That's all, I think.
All right.
Thanks to the giants whose shoulders were standing on.
Yes.
No, I mean, it's true. This work just keeps, moving forward, but it's the foundation weren't there, so thanks, Bob and Nancy.
All right, Nancy and Bob, we're gonna call this meeting to an end.
All right.
All right, and everyone else. All right, meeting adjourned.
We need a motion.
Oh,
Sorry.
See, that's why.
You're almost done. Nancy.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I moved
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn, all right. Nice. There you go, got a second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Nancy.
I'm just not doing that at all.
David, you realize you've just been groomed